Hello everyone, Mike Arnold here, co-founder Pat Trading Partners, along with Bob Iacchino, doing the weekly sector review. By the way, if you are new here, please do consider subscribing, ringing that bell, and hitting that like button. Longer term subscribers and viewers, please leave some comments and like the videos. So let's take a look. Let's go through our sectors we're looking at. XLE. The energy sector, so still in very strong buy mode. This is the weekly chart. We do have a potential double top I am keeping an eye on, also with the pullback in oil. So we still have at least a short-term top present in oil, and if it continues to break lower, I am watching for a bigger pullback in here. Again, it could pull back to all these double targets. First major one is about 65, 65.50. And then about 63 and then 60, 66. It could easily pull back there and stay in long-term bullish mode. And you see here we've had lots of pullbacks to this key long-term moving average and then moves back up. So that would just be part of the sort of the expected behavior if this double top triggers. So just watch out for that. By the way, the top for the triggering on it. The top for the trigger of the top, boy, it's going to be one of those recordings, isn't it? The trigger for this double top is a close below 73.88. Sorry about that. All right, so that is your XLE. XLRE, still in strong mode, still in buy mode, never issued a sell mode on our system. It's a combination of an indicator down here and this long-term average and rotating back up. It closed also on the daily above the 62.5% retracement, so I am watching for higher prices even on a pullback. Key pullback area, if this were to pull back, your major is about 47.60. Your minor, I would be watching for about 47.83. You can see a little sideways pattern here and getting the rotation up on the 4-hour with the 4-hour rotation zone. So we'll be watching for more XLRE plays, real estate plays. Nothing is at least a long-term sell. Short-term, we might be forming some divergences. So if we start rolling over, especially if we break below about 48, then I'm watching for that retest of the 50% harmonic, about 47.60. XLF financials, still in buy mode, triggering this double top pattern and coming back to the first and second target so far. If it does pull back more, 37.88 is the final target, and that's right in line with this long-term average. And you could even complete that, still even technically close below it and not trigger a sell signal just yet, but it could be closer again to the sell signal. So we are keeping an eye on that if this does tip over to a long-term sell signal in the financials. XLK, technology, possible topping candle here, at least that's a weekly potentially topping candle, but still in buy mode after a quick flip from sell mode. A rare whipsaw in that, so we'll be keeping an eye on that, and that might go into a longer term consolidation pattern. Getting the nice pullback to the daily rotation zone. So if we start taking out Friday's high, especially on a closing basis, then I'm going to watch for another rotation back up and a retest of this high area. So there still could be some technology plays. Stuff I'm looking at is Apple and Facebook. Those are two that jump to mind. They've actually have potential setups still, and like Meta, Facebook's FB/Meta still has a potential third target for a double top. Just keeping an eye on this. It's still not technically in the cycle road bottoming yet, but it has spiked down into rotation zone. So I will need that confirmation close above Friday's high to really start triggering some rotation entries on that. Just keep in mind, if we do continue to dip down, 154 is an area to watch for on that pullback. XLI, XLI still in bullish mode, rolling over last week. This is the industrials. Coming back, closing still above the rotation zone after retesting or getting near this 50 and the prior significant level. Not a strong up move. It would trigger a %B buy entry on a close by Wednesday above Friday's high, which comes in at 103.51. So that's what I am going to be watching for. Other than that, I don't have any short-term play in that. Long-term, the key support is about 170. That's the 50% level of this, between this up move and the down move, and right at the key moving average. So keep that in mind on a pullback. Even with a weekly close below that, unless it was a very strong weekly close below that, we would not go into a sell pattern. XLY, we have discretionary, which we had the double bottom, triggered 2 weeks ago. Coming up, hitting the first target with a slight topping candle on that. So I am going to be keeping an eye on this with this, but it's a pullback to the rotation zone. And technically, it's real close to a buy signal above Friday's high, but I'm holding off. I need a strong rotation until about 188. A close back above the 200, because this could still potentially pull back more. And it could still potentially pull back to the trigger point on the double. So my key support area is about 182.14 to about 181.38 on a continued pullback. Then we'll watch for a rotation back up. We start really breaking down below, again, about 181. I'll get in cautious mode because we could tip over into a weekly close. But this still does have the weekly double bottom on it. Slightly lower probability because of that hitch, but not enough for me to stay away from it. What else do we have? XLP Consumer Staples. Consumer Staples breaking above declining path trend line. Strong move up. Back above the 62.5 and back above the 75. So even on a pullback, I'm watching for the probabilities favor a retest of about the 77.30 to 78.18 area. And then through there would be new highs. But that's where the probabilities, at least in the short term, favor. XLP, you can see breaking above this trend line. So even on pullbacks, my key support is about 75.60. That would be a return to the 62.5 with the rising daily rotation zone. Even if you came back to kiss the trend line goodbye with this, that would be an area of about 75 to about 75.30. So pullbacks still, we are getting a little overbought. Cycles are at the top. So we could potentially, in the next few days, start to roll over and either move sideways or pull back. But this is still a longer term play based off of this. Never tipped into sell signal. And rebound strongly after that one big sell-off week at the beginning of March. Very strong rebound. XLV Healthcare still moving up towards that first target on the double. And again, this is slightly lower. It works on the daily, just not even. I'm still following this though. It's actually technically doesn't follow our hardcore rules. But healthcare is very strong, so I am using these as the targets. Next target, 139.23, 141.62. I would not be doing this in an individual stock, but since it is a sector which is in bullish mode, I'm going to be using these to monitor for plays in this sector. Coming back here, holding a significant level, 137, and rotating back up. So your short-term levels now, if you want to look at the very short-term levels for this, you're going to do the harmonics off of that projection. 139.57, 140.49. I am watching for a potential top and a slightly bigger pullback. A slightly bigger pullback would just be back to about this 134 level. Watching that with the rotation zone. So that's what I'm keeping in mind. And pull back to even that 134 would be nowhere near a sell signal. Why am I starting to watch for that again? Cycles somewhat starting to roll over, and we're getting some divergences up here. So even if we do push higher over the next couple days, if the S&P and NASDAQ continue to pull back or sideways for a couple days, we could push higher, but then I'll really be watching for a short-term pullback, and that would be to watch for key stocks in the healthcare sector to pop for buy entries or for buy re-entries if we're not in them anymore. XLB, the materials pausing week essentially last week, but still in strong buy mode. It's never triggered, even with all this action below the key moving average, it never triggered a sell signal. Right now, holding here right at the daily rotation zone, but the key level is about 88.16. We start breaking below that, I'm watching for a bigger pullback. And this is nearly a, let's take a look at that 1 hour chart. Yeah, we actually have a head and shoulders pattern. Shoulder, head, shoulder. Now, the trigger point would be about 88.40. Again, same trigger point. So if that does break down, I will watch for that bigger pullback. And I'd be watching close. First area would be about 87.16, about 86.58. If you wanted to draw out those exact targets on this head and shoulders, we might as well do that because people are here to learn. So let's learn. From the head, got to take the anchor off here, and then we project it from where it broke, so that breaks. So this would have to be updated, and I have to go with same targets, double and head and shoulders. Again, if this slides, it's not that steep an incline, so it's only going to change them a bit, but you can see here, if that did trigger, again, first target is right by that 30 or to 25% harmonic. And then the second target still within the rotation zone. Even if it dipped to the third target and closed back above, it would still be even a short-term buy within a long-term still bullish sector. So if we do trigger that, what does that mean for me? I start watching for material plays once we start hitting these targets, and watch for any key material stocks that fall in the materials sector for potential pullback plays. XLC Communications. We do have this double in here. Again, I'm bearish long-term on this because we've had the sell signal, but we were in very oversold condition and bouncing. And we've come back now to the breakout point on this double and a move back up. So it's also a resumptive buy pattern on a close within the next couple of days above the high from Thursday, 70.10. So if we start triggering this on a move back up, I will look for very short-term communication plays on stronger things. Other than that, there's nothing long-term. Again, these are short-term patterns, so there might be some swing or potential very short swing, long day trades in some communications things if this resumes its pattern back up. But keep in mind, it is a long-term sell pattern. So long-term sell pattern, we'll take a look at the weekly with the rotation zone. It's in the rotation zone. Can it still, I'm really focusing on this area between about 71.36 to about 72.10. And this was a lower probability double because you can see it is against the weekly rotation zone. So you got to be nimble in the communication sectors. XLU, very strong. Again, no sell signal. And then a rocket ship back up. Even went through the harmonics, just blazing through those harmonics. I've now put on the reverse harmonics from the low of March back to the high in February. And the next major target for that is 78.02. It is getting a little overextended, and we're at some overbought RSI tops and some cycle tops. So I'm starting to watch for a potential pullback in here. Pullback, my first area would be about below 74. I'd start watching for that bigger pullback, and key areas would be on this last run up. This last little run up. Let me get back to anchor it. Sorry, I forgot to do that before from the changing it for the head and shoulders. So always remember, if you're doing that with the head and shoulders, go back and re-anchor. Area I'm watching for is about 73.60 to 73.71 for initially starting a rotation back up. If we drop below that, my major support's coming all the way back at 72.32, but we don't want to close below that, at least in the short term. So this is my rotation zone in here that I will be watching for a pullback and then a resumptive play. So not aggressively going after anything in XLU at this point. This would be more raising trailing stops for any plays and then starting to watch for a topping pattern and then a pullback play. XRT, retail, still very bearish even with this bounce, still in sell mode. interesting enough, on the daily, we have this little flag pattern. So going to keep an eye on that. If you look at it on the weekly with the rotation zones coming up, rotation zone and rotating back down. So this still favors this flag pattern to break. Key area for I'd be watching, especially Friday's low. Tough thing with flag patterns is you do have stopping points, and you have actually a pretty major pattern here. I'm not bullish on a lot of retail. So this would just be watching for potential breakdown and bottoming plays in retail sector, not really looking for any long-term plays. And I don't even know what you've put Amazon in, because they're in so many things. There is a double that's been triggered on Amazon for a longer term play, but I can't really put, I mean, retail definitely affects Amazon, but it's not their bread and butter money maker. It's actually the cloud. So, you know, even if this rolls over, I'm not that worried about doubles in Amazon being potentially bullish, but I will pay very close attention if this does break this channel to the downside. Again, that would be a continued ongoing sell pattern, and then I'd start watching eventually for a bottoming pattern. We just don't have one yet. This, a flag pattern, is not a good bottoming pattern. This double turned into a triple and broke out, and it was against the weekly rotation zone. So you see here, and spiking up in there and rotating back down. So not a strong sector to be in. IYT, transportation. Transportation could be coming up on a sell signal soon. So it's not with this back and forth triggered one yet, but we could get one soon. So I am being very careful in anything transportation related. Also, you see daily breaking below that 200. Moving up, could not hold this key support, could not hold the rotation zone, and could not hold the prior major support level, 261, and your flat 200. So even on a bounce, this is not looking good. Cycle still rolling over, not yet oversold. So not really aggressively looking at anything in transportation. DBC commodities, we still have this potential double top in play. I am still watching for a bigger pullback. Even if this double top plays out, there's no way it's going to issue a sell signal, even if we got back to the full 21.15 final target on this double. What does that mean to me? I'm getting more and more cautious with commodities in the short term, watching for those pullback plays, especially if this triggers below 24.27. Definitely going to watch, because this could easily take it back to the daily 200 and back to the key long-term moving average. And then that would just be, I love that with gold, silver, oil plays long-term, things like uranium, other plays. So that's what I am watching for in commodities. DBA, which is agriculture fund. Again, we have this potential double here that we pointed out last week, stalling out at this harmonic 22.45, still in huge buy mode long term. However, I'm at the same point with this. We start breaking below 21.35. You can see here that would take it below the 50 on the daily. We trigger this double. We'll watch for more agriculture plays on pullbacks at the key level, especially this 2056 area. So DBA gets back to 2056, really will focus on longer term commodity plays. Just keep that in mind. And oh, by the way, if you're for grains, corn, just key resistance at this harmonic 764, and could not manage to get above it and rolling over. See, grains are really overextended, and we are in the planting season. I'm expecting potential short-term pullbacks and then long-term resumptive of trend moves. Okay, so we're just going to have to see. It could break down at least in the short term, keeping an eye on that. That was corn. Soybeans, again, breaking down, watching for that bigger pullback on beans closer to the bottom of this rotation zone, even the 37.5 right in the rotation zone. So going to keep an eye on about 1542. Wheat, even. Again, I do not like these patterns, but wheat's still holding. The 62.5, we start getting momentum below here. Then I'm watching for the key breakout area. Long term, I'm still bullish on wheat. It's just got overdone in this, especially if you start getting a daily close below the 62.5. Then it favors a return, actually down more to this 88.20 area. However, also what's interesting with wheat, why am I going through this? Because this is all part of the ags that are, I think there's going to be some great plays still coming up in that. Now, how would that change with wheat in the short term? We get a close above 1075. We've triggered a double, and I'd watch for a return to the 1152 to 1178 area. What's interesting is even on a bounce play, based off this really crazy price action, that wouldn't take us back above the 62.5. So that wouldn't even favor a return to the high area. It would just be a bounce play and then a potential rollover. That's what I have for you, everyone. That's what I have for you with some thoughts. Oh, by the way, we'll go over these on some of the live streams with Apple. I mentioned this with technology. Apple, just going to give a little bonus here, a little pullback flag right at the bottom of the 4-hour rotation zone, rotation back up. And by the way, a close above Friday's high is a short-term bullish %B buy. So do keep that in mind. Or if you have a front run pattern, if we start breaking above about 175 going in on Monday morning, not pre-market, but really during the trading session, then that could be an advanced little jump on that play upwards. I talked about another technology play, Meta, pausing, multi-day pause right after we hit the second target from this double bottom, drifting sideways, letting the rotation zone catch up. So the next target on this would be about 234 to 236 target area on that. Keep in mind, it just closed below the weekly rotation zone, the weekly 200 in there. There's a fair amount of resistance there. But if we did get a stronger NASDAQ, now I'm not necessarily talking tomorrow, we could still get a couple days of pullback in the NASDAQ or sideways price action. But if we really get through that double in the next few days with some strength, it could make an easily run back to the 250 area. So keeping an eye on that too. Those are a couple other plays, just bonus things to watch for. Again, if you're new here, please do consider subscribing, ringing that bell, and hitting that like button. Longer term viewers, please like the videos and take some time, even 30 seconds, and just leave a comment. It could be great video or Mike, you're stupid. Whatever you want to say, fine. Just leave a comment. Somebody might respond to it. It'll help get things out there more. And I hope this weekly sector overview helps people. Talk to everyone later. Bye for now.